as far as I'm concerned, it's the ultimate privilege for any motorbiker.
The atmosphere up there is absolutely electric.
And we are very lucky to have this race still going. You're hauling the bike from side to side, you're on the pegs. Physically, it's heavy as I can flick it one side, everything you can do, and you think, all the months in the gym and everything have all thrown into that one direction change, and that for me makes me feel alive.
Hello and welcome to Off Track, powered by Rich Energy. I'm your host, Dave Neal, and I'm absolutely delighted to say Sam West, the Street Dyno Racing. We're here at the TT, we're looking out at the grandstand in front of the Rich Club. Sam, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much, thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. What a couple of weeks you've had. We'll talk through that as we get later into the show, but first of all, for the ladies and gentlemen, where did you get started as a road racer? How did Sam West, the road racer, come to be?
It started quite differently to what a lot of the other guys did. They start riding when they're young, they do motocross. I didn't. I was into racing push bikes. My parents wouldn't let me have a motorbike. They were dead set against it, even though my dad had bikes and his dad had bikes. So I raced push bikes. I raced every discipline. I won the downhill championships, hill climb championships, everything going, time trials, 10 miles out, everything possibly going on push bikes. And then when I was 18, I could actually afford to buy my own motorbike, and that was it. So I bought 125 and I was off. Obviously, it didn't take long to upgrade to a 600 and get in a little bit of trouble, so I lost my license. And the natural progression was, of course, start racing the motorbikes. At the time, I was still racing downhill championships at a reasonable level. I'd won a bit, but I wasn't setting the world alight. I was more interested in motorbikes already by that stage. So I went and did one track day once I'd lost my license, fell in love with it, thought it was incredible. Got black flagged on my first session, told off by the instructors, told I was dangerous, everything you can possibly imagine. That every instructor through my life has always told me that sort of stuff. So I thought, well, this, I'm going to go racing instead. So that was it. Suddenly became a racer.
And that's a late start, really, isn't it? When you look at some of the guys that you're racing against today, they started
definitely
at 6, 8 years old, and there's Sam coming into it after a successful career on the cycling. A quick question for you on the time trial front. What was your fastest time for a 10-miler?
Now you're asking, I'm trying to remember off what it says on the plaques. It was respectable, but I wouldn't want to commit to it because every mile an hour matters, and I wouldn't want to say now what it was and then be a mile an hour slower than what I actually achieved. No, it was respectable. I was doing good times. I can't remember the exact time. And I wouldn't want to do myself a disservice, would I?
I think as a kid, I think my best was 27 minutes, so I was nowhere near what you were doing.
Yeah, I think I was considerably, maybe not to talk you down, but I think I was certainly quicker than that. Yeah.
Considerably quicker. So from the change into two wheels, how did the road racing side begin? Because usually the way to go is on the short circuits and through the club racing side, whether it be Thundersport, No Limits, whichever way you do it, into BSB. But you've taken a different route into road racing and really making your mark in that style of racing.
Yeah, certainly. I did take a different route to it. I think for me, because I was a road rider with a 125 and then a 600, and I followed the traditional biker route rather than a racer route. So for me, it was all about the TT. I was reading about it in the magazines, reading about my idols, and wow, they've done this and they've done that at the TT. What an incredible race. And my dad and my granddad had always been going over to the TT as spectators. So it was that, to me, that was the one race that was everything about motorbiking. MotoGP is great and everything, but the TT for me was everything. So when I started, my sort of faint goal in the distance, even though I thought they would always be unachievable, my faint goal was, TT would be an incredible dream, something to pursue. So I did a year of club racing, and in my first full season, I actually won everything going, just by chance. It was a novice championship, and I upgraded quickly to litre bikes and got some podiums on there. And on the strength of my first year, I was actually offered a ride in BSB Stock 1000. And I didn't realise then what a jump that was going to be from a novice club championship, on novice bikes, to suddenly being in at the thick end. I was on the grid with Plater and McGuinness, and I'd only done 1 year on track and suddenly I'm racing against these guys. And obviously, I was crap and slow at the start, but you get dragged on very quickly when you're around these talented riders. So after 4 years then of doing BSB Stock 1000, I'd really settled into it. I was scoring in the points fairly regularly. And I'd stopped making all those silly little mistakes that you make on the track. Although I made one of those silly mistakes early in the week, of course. We'll gloss over that for now. So I'd stopped making those. I'd stopped making those silly mistakes, and I felt then was the time. So what I wanted to do was do the TT. So I came over and I did the Manx instead. Got a 600, did the Manx. Just wanted to, no publicity, slip under the radar, just try riding the road circuit and see if it was what I wanted to do. And that was it. One lap in, absolutely in love, and that was my life's dream then, my destiny. I had to do it.
Tell us about that first lap at the Manx. Tell us about your feelings as you're up on the start line and you're out on the circuit. Places you'd watched as a kid with the family, and it was in your blood already, but to actually be out there riding it and racing it. Tell us about that first time.
I was going to say it's indescribable, but it's actually making the hair stand up on my arms now. It was just such an incredible sensation. You know, you lined up on the start line thinking, am I really doing this? Am I really doing this? It's just incredible. What an incredible thing to be able to do. So privileged to get to do it. I was hopeless. I'd never ridden a 600 before in my life because I jumped straight onto the litre bikes after club racing and gone to the BSB. So I wasn't very good at riding the bike, and we made loads of silly and naive mistakes, but the experience was just incredible. Every lap got better and better. It was fantastic. I remember actually my first clear run over the mountain, and there was nobody there at all for miles. And as I was coming down the mountain towards Keppel Gate, I suddenly saw a marshal, and I thought, it's the police. And I thought, my first reaction was to slam on the brakes. I thought, I'm going to get done, because I was just riding my bike. It wasn't like a race. It wasn't like anything racetrack. It was just me and my bike, and it was just such a natural experience. It was just like being on the road again, but with marshals and medics and in a safe environment.
Nice to be able to be in the moment then, and not. I was talking to somebody about this yesterday. And there seems to be too much, sometimes there can be too much pressure on first-timers, whether it's at the TT or at the Manx. It's all about lap times, it's all about this, it's all about that. But for me, I don't know how you feel about this, for your first fortnight, whether it's here or whether it's at the Manx, just enjoy it and relax and let things come. Would that be your way of doing it? Did you look at it that
Absolutely.
way? Or
I think
did you get wrapped up in lap times?
You're dead right when you say that, and that's why actually I wanted to do the Manx rather than the TT, because I thought then there won't be any of that pressure. The only person putting the pressure on is myself then. And looking back now, it would have been a lot better for my riding career to have gone and done the TT because of the way they take care of you as a rider and assist you in the right way. So the Manx do a great job of that as well, but I actually almost... Not that I tried to avoid the help, but I just wanted to ride my bike and be in the moment, like you say. And so career-wise, I made the wrong choice, but it did allow me to step back and assess myself whether that truly was what I wanted to do, rather than being pushed on and on and on towards a lap time.
So looking back, would you change what you did at the Manx? Would you go straight to the TT, or would you still have needed to have qualified? What was the line for that?
It's difficult because I can see now that if I had come straight to the TT, I would be performing far better now, and it would have helped me move on very quickly. But I look back at those first few laps at the Manx, and they were just, some of the best days of my life almost. Those evening practices, those first times, it's all so exciting when you're a newcomer, and it was just this incredible experience. And it was just me and my family effectively here in an old caravan. There was none of the pressures of racing. It was just me riding my motorbike around and getting to do what I really love doing. And while the TT would have brought me on more, I wouldn't give that up for the world, what I experienced at the Manx.
It's irreplaceable, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah.
When you were doing your first couple of times over on the Manx, did you have a certain part of the course that you were a little bit wary of, or did you just take everything at face value, or do you think, oh, I might not be too sure around there, or?
I actually really like the bumpy sections. I remember everyone was always complaining about the bumpy sections, and you told us a newcomer, be careful here, be careful there, it's going to slap. And I think maybe because of my mountain bike experience, I only feel I'm getting sensations from the bike when it's moving around. So I really struggled as a newcomer over the mountain, where it's very smooth, it's very calm, there's no feedback from the tyres, not at the pace I was riding, of course. Once you're doing your 130-ish mile an hour laps, there's plenty of feedback. But as a newcomer doing 110 to 115 mile an hour laps on a 600, you really no knowledge of what's going on underneath me, and I found that very, very difficult to judge where there might be a limit. Whereas the bumpy sections, the bike's slapping and bouncing, clattering around, you know exactly what's going on.
How many years of doing the course did it take you before you actually became? I know you learn every time you go out. There's no two ways about it. You're always learning on the TT course. But where was the point that you got to where all of a sudden you went, I know what I'm doing, I know where I'm going, and then it was fine-tuning time? How long did that take to get to that level?
I think 2018 I took a massive step forwards. We had a lot of dry laps, obviously, and I was riding a bike that I was then familiar with, the BMW, which was running great for me at the time. So I had reliable machines, and I was able to just focus on my riding. And lap after lap, I learned and I learned and I progressed. And that would have been my 4th TT, I think it was then. I'm trying to count back the years in my head now. I hadn't prepared anything. So I would say 4 TTs, and the benefit of 2018, of course, was that we did like 60 laps, as opposed to a wet year where you might do 20 laps. So we had like 3 years experience in one go 2018, and everybody was able to move on to the next level. You look at like what Pete managed to achieve in that year with the lap times, that was great. And for the stage I was at in my career as well, that really helped me, and I learned so much in that year, and I really felt like I gelled with the circuit in 2018.
Can you remember any point on a lap where you realise, actually, I've nailed this, I'm there? Can you remember that point, or does it just come
I don't think
naturally?
there is a single corner on the circuit I have nailed a single time ever. And that's the incredible challenge of this place. When you're on a short circuit, you go around, say, Mallory Park or Silverstone National, same corner again and again and again and again and again, and you can really refine your skills of every particular corner and every aspect of that corner. But around here, by the time you get to one corner, you've done another 250 corners in between. You're 18 minutes apart from where it was. To try and remember exactly what you did at 170 mile an hour and try and just refine that a little bit is difficult, and that's part of the unique challenge of this circuit.
The idea of road racing, for me, it becomes incredibly emotional. We love the short circuits. I've grown up around the short circuits and watching MotoGP, British Superbikes, but I've only sort of lately come to road racing in the flesh. I watched it on the TV, Steve Hislop years ago, but to actually come out in 2018 was my first year here. And it's indescribable to actually be here and to witness what you guys do out on the course. For me, it beggars belief a little bit. Going around the mountain course, 37.73, 200 and some odd corners, do you feel privileged to be able to do that?
As far as I'm concerned, it's the ultimate privilege for any motorbiker. Even you speak to the guys who are coming over and watching, and they go out for their morning laps and they get to do the mountain. Even that is an incredible privilege, and we are very lucky to have this race still going. The organisers have done great, moving the event forwards and keeping it up to date. I know there's a lot of debate at the moment about it being an historic event, and they're losing this and they're losing that, but they're moving forwards with the times, and they're keeping us this incredible privilege of being able to do the ultimate race, the ultimate motorsport event in the world.
You pick the best road races in the world to compete at. You've done Macau. You've done
absolutely.
You've done Dundrod. You've done the Ulster GP. You've done the Northwest. You've done the smaller ones. You've done Armoy. Correct?
Yeah, I did Armoy. I looked at the Armoy circuit and just thought that's an incredible experience as well. I've got to do a bit of that. Yeah.
Right. That's good, because talk to me about the Armoy circuit. We were over at the Northwest with yourself like 3 weeks ago now. It feels like a different year by the time we've got there, and we've done Donington Park in between, and now we're on the beautiful Isle of Man. Talk to me about Armoy, because while we were in Northern Ireland, we did a lap of Armoy in the car.
It's not a good idea to do it in the car, is it, or in the van? No. I went over to speak to the organisers.
Circuit.
It is incredible, isn't it? But I went over to do a lap and meet the organisers. They were keen to get me to do it. Bill Kennedy, fantastic guy, got to say. What an incredible bloke. Great for the sport, great for the riders. Just an amazing bloke to be running that event. So I went over to see him and have a chat about doing it. And I did a lap in my van. And I thought, my God, this is brutal. I genuinely felt sorry for my van. The suspension on the van was getting clattered. It was banging. It was harsh. I thought, I can't do this. You can't ride around here on a motorbike. Absolutely impossible. But I had a bike in the back of the van, and I did some laps, and I thought, God, is this possible? Is this even possible on a superbike? But, in for a penny, in for a pound. I went there and I lined up, and I've got to say that actually it's a lot easier on a motorbike at high speed than it is in the van. You skip over the bumps, it's light, it's agile, just an incredible circuit. So there's this one point at the back, you go over a tabletop jump, I suppose mountain bike style, and you jump up onto the top of the table, it wiggles on the back wheel, and you fly over the tabletop from off the back wheel, land on the back wheel again, pointing at edge, tank slapping. I didn't know motorbikes could do that. I genuinely had no idea a motorbike could do that stuff and pull those shapes.
It's proper tying itself in knots in that respect.
Absolutely, yeah, unbelievable. But it pulls itself out of the knot, and you nail it down the straight, and then you're back on the brakes, and it's kicking around, and there's 30 of you, all you and your mates all doing it at the same time. Just an incredible experience.
It's somewhere I really want to go, because the international road races are fantastic, but the smaller Northern Irish road races, that's the next thing on the list for me to experience.
Absolutely,
because the Armoy one was you have the start on the main road, and then you go into the village, turn left, then you go out to the church. The S-bend through the church, so you always lap the church, don't you, and then go onto the back road,
right. Yeah,
which is where all the bumps are.
Round, yeah, that's it, yeah.
We were in the car, I'm looking at it going like, surely not.
You wouldn't believe it, would you?
No.
And I think when they came up with these circuits, the lads were all riding 125s, 50s, and it probably wasn't so bad then. But now you put a 210, 220 horsepower superbike on it, and it just unbelievable, isn't it? Just incredible.
It blew me away, even in the car.
Yeah.
I just couldn't. And I fully understand why they put the chicane in at the end of the start straight, because that would look like a really fast left-hander.
Yeah, it's still a really fast left-hander, even with the chicane there, and it's a fast chicane as well. You've got to have some chicane somewhere, I suppose. I think it's more to do with the run-off of the corner. If it went wrong,
Yes.
You'd be through someone's front room, wouldn't you, and sitting with them watching the TV.
It's a bit like the back straight at the Northwest, isn't it? If you going through the right-hander at, it's not Magraboy, it's the one before that, isn't it?
Mathers Cross.
At Mathers Cross. If that chicane wasn't there, that right-hander on a 230 brake horsepower superbike, there's a house just on the point where if you did,
Yeah.
you would literally be in their front room.
I remember doing a lap in a car there with Mervyn White, of course, the organiser, Michael Rutter. Michael was saying, "The shit, Mervyn, these chicanes are shit. They're all, get rid of them. And Mervyn saying, "There's a house there, Michael. We've got to have it." You know, as the bikes have got faster, of course, you need a bigger runoff area before you hit the house.
Absolutely.
And as Mervyn said to Michael, you can't move the house, Michael. We've got to have the chicane.
And that's the thing, isn't it? When the courses were originally made, is exactly what you said. They were 2-stroke 500s, they were 750s, 250s, 125s. They weren't 230, 235 brake horsepower superbikes.
No, absolutely. It's
we've got to
changed,
look after
hasn't
the
it?
riders as well.
Well, you've got to try and look after the riders as well. I think the circuits have moved on. When you watch the old footage, you think, Jesus, you know, those guys were brave riding around there then. And the TT circuit now, even the work they've done the last 3 years, it's just incredible. You go through the new sections they've done, Stella Maris, that is world-class GP level. That is as good now as a corner at Assen, which is known for its fantastic camber. The work they've done to make the track good this year is just incredible.
So which brings us on to the question now, what was it like, apart from the obvious story that we'll come to, which is we can see the remnants of on your hand at the moment, but before that, what was it like to be back on the Isle of Man after a 3-year break?
I think everyone was really nervous. I certainly was. But there was quite a relieving sensation in that it was the first lap I'd ever done around here, the first lap this year, the first lap I've ever done around here where there was no focus on lap times at all. There was absolutely no pressure on anybody. I think as far as everyone was concerned, go out, ride your motorbike, get re-familiar with the circuit again. No pressure. You can be first, you can be last. Nobody cares.
I would agree with that completely. So the first night, first tap on the shoulder, what were you feeling?
Yeah, excited. But also really nervous because if you'd have asked me, and if you ask me now, what comes after this corner, after that corner? Certainly, I was reading my notes. I've got a lot of notes around here that help, and with the data, I can go through it. And I'm thinking, hang on, what do you mean 2 kinks on the mountain? Reading through it, I thought there's only one there. I don't remember. And I went out and did a lap in the car. Peter Bettridge from Bettridge Motor always helps me out with the car here down in Foxdown, the south of the island. So I did a few laps with him in the car when I dropped stuff off after the Northwest, and I did not feel familiar with the circuit. So I think it's a testament to your muscle memory and your subconscious brain, how much you know when you go get that tap on the shoulder, set off down Bray Hill, and somehow you just know, I just tweak it slightly right here, and I just roll it then and help it turn left, and somehow all that knowledge immediately was back there.
We've done a couple of podcasts last week. We did 5 last week, and I spoke to the guys about the same thing, because when you're up on the Glen Crutchery Road and you called through into the second phase of the start, and you set off 10 seconds behind the guy who's just gone, 10 seconds ahead of the one behind you, the tap on the shoulder fascinates me. It makes me quite emotional because it's not just off you go. For me, it feels like the tap on the shoulder is, go well, son.
It sort of is like that, isn't it?
It feels like a paternal tap on the shoulder rather than
certainly,
something like. How do you feel with that?
Yeah, I think you're right. It definitely is, and it's the last, physical point of contact that you have with someone before you set off and you do this. Which there's certainly, there's a huge weight on that tap of the shoulder. It's very special. It's a lot better than just a light.
I think so too. It's a lot more personal, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
And I watched the Superbike race on Saturday. And genuinely, and I don't mind admitting this, I'm a big softie anyway, but I literally had tears while I was stood there. It really becomes that emotional. It's a strange feeling because you don't get that at BSB. I got it at the Northwest, and I explained to Craig Neve, who I'd seen out there, why I felt the way I did. And to be stood up there and trying to do social media at the same time when I'm trying to keep the old British stiff upper lip, the atmosphere up there is absolutely electric.
It is absolutely electric. There's no replacement for the atmosphere you get up here on Glen Crutcher Road on the start line. It's just incredible. And there's so many emotions going on and the excitement. And I think the fact we only get to do it once a year, and it's such a special event that builds everything and it hypes and the emotions build and build and build. Everyone's absolutely loaded up to the top with every emotion they could possibly feel of nerves and fear and excitement, and everyone feels it together. And it really does bond you together. And you're all part of it together, the spectators, the organisers, the riders, the teams. Everybody feels the same thing. You're all in it together.
You had a fantastic start to 2022 TT Fortnight. Your pace was exceptional.
You know what? I was a bit surprised with that. I just rode round. Like I say, there was no pressure on the lap times. I just rode round, I set off, and I rode round, and I come in for fuel, didn't know how I was going, carried on, did 2 more laps. I'd done 4 laps. I was 3rd. Okay, that's not bad. And I just continued that form. And to be honest, I'd felt really good at the Northwest 200 as well. This year, for the first time, I've got the new BMW instead of maybe an older bike. And it was actually a competitive machine. And I'd been faster than I'd ever been in the BSB, in the stock thousands. I'd taken loads off my personal bests. I just felt great on the bike. I suddenly felt this new challenge and motivation. Moving forward to a new machine was enabling me to do what I really wanted to do on the bike. And I think you saw my results at the Northwest, and then I just felt I could carry on here. I've never felt so comfortable and natural as I did on that new BMW. And unfortunately, after 2 meetings, I've now cartwheeled it and set fire to it.
I was going to say, and then what happened?
Unfortunately, I did have a high side coming through the Laurel Bank section. Bit of an unusual crash. Unfortunately, it looks like we're not able to get the data out of the bike because the bike was on fire for 2.5 minutes. Very, very unusual high side. Maybe a bit of over-enthusiasm on my behalf. A bit of setup issue, coming over the crown of the road. Just a few contributing factors. And unfortunately, next thing you know, I was tumbling down the road and I could see the stone wall coming up towards me. And I was thinking, oh my God, this is not going to be fun. And bang, off the stone wall down the road. But I certainly come away lucky, didn't I?
Yes.
Yes.
It's the only answer I can give to that one. There's no 2 ways about it. Sam, it's great to see you sat here.
Yeah.
That's the main thing. Talk us through the remnants of the injuries and what's left.
In terms of the injuries, I've got away very lightly, and it's a massive testament to the kit. And I know this is a bit of a plug for RST Leathers, but you know what? They support me. They're giving me great support with the RST and the AGV kit. This year, for the first time, we have to wear a chest protector to the TT. I've never worn one before in my life, ever, and I just thought it was a ridiculous thing to have. And I was up there on the start line, and I was going to throw it in the bloody hedge. And I thought, I'm not wearing this crappy thing. I can't breathe in it. And I've gone straight into this dry stone wall. My airbag has gone off. I've got a chest protector, back protector, and the leathers have rubbed through right on the ribs, and I've had really bad abrasions there, and I have not got a bruise on my ribs. If I hadn't been wearing the airbag suit, my chest protector and back armour, my ribs would have been serrated. I would have smashed myself up, and instead, absolutely fine. All my upper body was saved by the fantastic kit that we have nowadays.
Perfect.
I just think how recently was it in MotoGP they started wearing airbag suits, and we all looked at each other and went, we'll never get that, and then thanks to the brands like RST and Emotion, we've got affordable airbag suits. Everyone's wearing them. Fantastic.
And testament as to why we do, especially
absolutely
here.
Yeah. I've only used my airbag once before on a Moto Morini owner's track day when I crashed a 1973 350cc bike, a high-sided, it's a Cadwell. I was just annoyed I'd set off an airbag. But this crash in particular absolutely justifies it. And for me now, I will always wear an airbag suit.
1973.
That's
the year I was born.
Yeah. Oh, it might have been a 74, sorry, actually. It might have been 74.
Oh, so I'm older than
You're
the bike.
older than the bike
thanks,
I high-sided. Yeah. You might remember it.
We'll edit that one out. I'm not taking that. Not a chance.
Yeah. So a big testament to the kit, my injuries are relatively low. I've not got any fractures. I'm just really struggling with the swelling. The pain is all relative, and it's nothing compared to, say, smashing your pelvis up. So I can deal with the pain, and the adrenaline gets you through. But the swelling is an issue, getting into the position to ride a bike. So that's what I'm just trying to work through now with the physios who are great here. They're giving me so much advice on what to do with the icing and the anti-inflammatories, and then the hyperbaric, of course. So we're throwing everything at it.
What's been the rest of the, apart from the healing process, for the ladies and gentlemen who maybe aren't quite aware of what you've been doing since? Back out, giving it a little bit, or are we waiting for the senior? What?
I went back out in the Superstock race yesterday. I had to actually get back out to qualify the machine. The rules have changed a little bit this year.
Okay.
And if you've seen that there's now morning warm-up laps before the races. So before we used to have a little bit of qualifying thrown into the race week. And now they've changed it, which I'm personally a fan of. I know some people aren't. I like it. There's now a morning warm-up lap. That's great for me because I'm always really, really slow, to be polite, right in the first lap. So now they give me a chance to be slow in the warm-up instead. But it does mean that they don't count as qualifying. So I had to actually borrow a bike and qualify it last week to get it out, and that was very difficult, but I did do a couple of laps. So now really it's a case of healing up, waiting for the senior.
That, as you mentioned, the warm-up lap, which has been brought in for the first time this year, I think that's, for me, that has the ability for those that do it to be able to push the speeds up that little bit further, especially from the standing start on the opening lap. As you say, some that don't, there are riders that don't quite wake up until Union Mills.
Yeah, definitely. Is that why you did it? Paul, Gary, organisers? Is that why it's there? Help push the lap speeds up.
It helps bring the lap speed up. There
it does, and the race for 140 mile an hour laps is sort of in sight now, and I think you see Pete. Well,
can you imagine? Really?
Yeah, I think you can imagine, because if you look at what Pete's achieved, and so the 135, he was held up. That was on the last generation of bike, so I've got to think he could have done 136 easily on the last generation of bike. Things have moved on massively in those 4 years. The circuit's moved on, and suddenly I would imagine these riders can look at maybe doing these 37s, 38s, and then the debate's there, isn't it? You can see it. Who's going to be first to 140? I'm not saying it's coming soon, but within a decade, it's possible, isn't it?
Now, on that point of a decade, I would love to see the TT still be going for another decade and beyond.
Oh, absolutely. There was another 100 years.
Yeah, there was a thought that after COVID, it might not make it back with a lot of things after the 2-year break or the 3 years of actually not being here.
Yeah, of course.
But the 2 cancelled years, there was murmurings of will it come back, won't it come back? Got the Ulster we've lost, unfortunately. We've kept the Northwest, we've kept the TT. But to have it back, and for what Paul Phillips and his team and the Manx government and all the organising committee, media people, marshals, what an event.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think part of the reason people were worried we weren't going to get it back was the fear of losing such an incredible event.
Yeah.
What it is to motorcycling and all of us as bikers, not just racers, but absolutely everyone understands what this event means. And of course, when we lost the Ulster, it's very sad to lose that event, but I do think that's a temporary loss, and we'll hopefully bring it back, which is a different side point. I'll not get distracted. I think the event has moved forward, and like you say, there has been a lot of people unhappy about some of the changes that have been made. But the work that's been done by Paul Phillips and his team here, he's Mr. TT for those who might not know, and he's done a huge amount of work flat out for the last few years to keep this event moving forwards, progressing it, moving on the safety, and he's speaking to all aspects. He's speaking to the marshals and the medics and the riders and the teams, and it's certainly a joint forum. He's not making decisions without everybody being informed and everybody making those decisions together. Full credit to him.
We can only echo those sentiments. They've all done a fantastic job, and we already looking forward to 2023 with a bit of a schedule change for 2023. Looking at it, the races are a bit almost every day. I think there isn't rest days, but there's less.
Yeah, that's
per
right.
day.
Yeah, I believe they are going to change it. I think the idea of the event, I don't want to speak out of line here, I think the idea is to give the spectators more racing. So people who maybe could only make it for practice or maybe only make it for race week, I think the idea is to give them all the chance to watch some practice and some racing. I'm happy to do whatever. It still can be the same circuit. They'll change the format. We'll all still be here and we'll look forward to it.
Do you get frustrated with a rest day on having 2 races, or do you think you prefer a race every day? Because from your own setup, of running your own team, you're bringing in your own sponsors, you're working on your own bike, and you're racing the bike. You have a huge amount to do in preparation for the TT and across TT Fortnight.
It is really difficult, and the rest days are not rest days. They are absolutely the busiest days. I've got quite a lot of stuff to do today. There's a lot of work to do on the bike to prepare it for tomorrow's single lap session. If you look at events like the Southern 100, it's quite frequent that we'll be up until nearly 1 a.m. working on the bike after the late races to get it ready for the next day. I just hear myself over that bike.
That's all right, we'll let that one go past.
It's beautiful FHO BMW, I
Indeed.
believe it is. Very nice machine.
They'll be heading their way up to the dyno machine, which is just over in the...
Probably break the dyno, they got that much power those have. Well-developed bikes.
Incredibly well. Are you on the M series?
No, the S series
You're on the
for
S
myself.
series?
Yeah, there's a substantial cost difference between an S and
Indeed.
an M.
Yeah.
And I was already, like I said, privateer. I really appreciate the support the guys will get, but there's always a budget. And so I did stick with the S1000 regressively rather than the M1000.
While we're on that subject, just give give us a shout for your social media, where people can get hold of you. If anybody watching, they like what you're about, they maybe want to help out.
Oh, thanks
feel
for that.
Free,
yeah,
feel free to give them a shout.
SamWest62 across all social media, across from Instagram, SamWest62, Twitter, SamWest62. 62, everyone always asks me about that number. I literally chose it from a book.
Like literally I said, take my next question away. Thanks, mate.
I knew nothing about nothing at all about racing when I started. Like I say, I just had a road bike and I went racing. They said you need a number, so I looked through the list of numbers that were there, and 62 was it. I didn't know you're supposed to choose a number where you can sort of tie your name in. Obviously, West, I could have had 35,
Absolutely.
and it would have tied in nicely. I didn't know any of that stuff. I didn't know anything at all. I was so naive. I'm slowly learning.
I don't think so. You've been around a bit now. You should have picked a little bit up between now and then.
I have, yeah. What am I, 12 years into the racing career now? This is my 13th year in my racing career now. If you ignore the COVID years off,
yes.
11 years plus COVID, yeah.
Of all the road races that you've competed in, which one, you don't have to, because we're at the TT, let's take the TT out of it, because it's such a different event compared to Macau, Tandragee, wherever, all the Cookstown, the smaller races. Which is your favourite outside of the TT, and why?
I think all the road races are incredibly unique. Well, it's the same when you go to short circuits, they've all got their own thing, but it's all pretty much the same sort of kettle of fish, But you go to the road races and everything has its own fantastic, unique aspect. And, we have to take the TT out of that. But if you look at the Northwest, there's nowhere else you get the sensations you get at the Northwest. You go to the Ulster, there's nowhere else you get that. You go to Armoy again, there's nowhere else. Every circuit is unique. And look at Macau, there's nothing like it, absolutely nothing like it. And there's no real comparison that can be drawn from, say, the Northwest 200 to Macau, even though they're both fast road races. They're the only words you could use to compare them. Macau is an incredible, tight, technical circuit that requires an agile bike, and it's the absolute opposite of the flat-out style and the heavy braking of the Northwest. All the circuits have the incredible aspects, and they all give you different sensations. I think for me, Macau is very special, though. That is a very special circuit.
Weirdly, whenever I have racers on the show that have been out to Macau and competed out there, I can't get any stories of Macau out of them. Why is that, Sam?
What stories? What happens in Macau?
See what I mean?
I would like to point out, for those that aren't here, my girlfriend has just sat down next to us, and she's from Macau. We met in Macau at one of the parties, actually, and I managed to rope her into staying with me.
Fantastic, and congratulations.
Yeah, that's the only story that's...
That's the only story that we can broadcast.
There's a lot of partying goes on. It's a fantastic place, and the hospitality from the organisers is great. They really want you to experience Macau and see what it's all about, and all the lads are reunited as well. It's November, you've not seen each other since maybe the Ulster, and it's quite a close-knit community, the Macau. There's only 28 races go, of course, so it's a very difficult race to get in. But the organisers are incredibly kind and generous. Once you're in, they really look after you very well. And because we spend 2 weeks over there together, and there's only 28 groups, you spend a lot more time together than they would here. For example, some of the lads out in the awnings here, if you bumped into them down at Jack's on the front, you might say hello to them. But if you bump into them in Macau, you'll stop and you spend 5 or 6 hours drinking with them until the early hours of the morning, because there's so few of you there, and you're all in this niche little group halfway around the world, again, getting to do something incredible, just like the TT in a way.
And I find there's in fact, it's not quite as strong. There's a really strong camaraderie between the road riders.
Absolutely, yeah.
You are, yes, there's rivalries and there's different things go on sometimes, politics, whatever. But personally, between you guys, there's a big band of brothers feel to it because of what you do and how you do it.
Absolutely, and I think there's utmost respect amongst the riders, definitely. And like you say, there's always politics, or there's a few mechanics that don't get on with each other or something like that. But in terms of the riders, we're all very close. And, something's going to make you really close. If you go around a fast corner together, neck and neck, you've absolutely got each other's lives in your hand. And the level of respect and trust really does draw you very closely.
Coming back to the TT, what's your favourite part of this course? Which part do you look forward to the most to arriving at?
Everyone always asks that, and it's such a difficult question to answer. It's such a big circuit, and everything's so different. The mountain's so good, but it's so smooth, and that frustrates me still. For me, it's the bumpy section. I go through Ginger Hall, Kerrymore, incredible, absolutely unbelievable. When I first came as a newcomer, you think, God, this is a bumpy corner. And actually, it's a good, fast kink, and it just nails you into the bumpy section. It's all you can do. You're hauling the bike from side to side. You're on the pegs. It's physically as heavy as I can flick it one side, everything you can do. And you think, all the months in the gym and everything are all thrown into that one direction change. You pull it on the back wheel and let the head shake around. Just incredible, absolutely unbelievable. That section, for me, Kerrymore all the way through to Ramsey is just heaven. I could just do that again and again and again and again.
The road surface through there is a little bit rough.
Unfortunately, they've resurfaced it and got rid of
They
some
made
of the
it really
bumps.
smooth, you know.
Yeah, they made it too
out
smooth.
for you.
Yeah. It's
What a
still
shame.
going to be one of the bumpier sections of any circuit. When you go through Carrowmore and through there, I remember one time going through the right-hander there and hit a bump that hard, it bounced me, and as I came back into the air off the bump, it jumped me a foot closer into the corner of the apex. I was suddenly really close to the wall. Bloody hell, that was close. But those bumps, they make you feel alive. You can feel the chassis binding up. You know, I do all right at BSB, but I'm certainly never going to find the limits of, say, the swing arm flex like some of the lads at the front of the Superbike class might do. But here I can feel it. I can feel what the chassis is doing. I can feel when that swing arm's struggling, when the chassis is moving and the fork flex is too much. And the feedback you get from the bike there is incredible and absolutely unique. And that, for me, makes me feel alive.
That right there is one of the best descriptions I have ever had for any section of this course. Thank you, Sam. That was
thanks.
perfect.
I just get a bit excited and get
But why
carried
not?
away.
Absolutely, it's exactly what you should be, and that's the beauty of it. And we felt that this week with the excitement with the riders. But to actually sit here and have that conversation is a privilege for me. So thank you for that, mate. That was exceptional. What do we have for the rest of the week? What are your plans now? Looking towards the senior, do you have expectations for that, or because of what's gone before, do you kind of have let's just go out, do 6 laps, and see where we are? What are the expectations?
It's really frustrating for me, and it almost, I'm going to sound like I'm putting a downer on it now, but obviously, crash was my fault, my mistake, and it just really moved the goalposts, you know. I felt like I was going to come here and get maybe top 6th places, you know. If you look at Jamie Coward, he's having a fantastic week, and I'm often around him. If I'm having a good week, I'll be quicker than Jamie. If he's having a good week, he'll be quicker than me, and he's had 6th after 6th after 6th. He's doing great, and I certainly felt I should have been fighting with him for those sort of 6th places, you know. We're next in line for these factory rides, and I certainly felt I wanted to be in those positions, but now, obviously, it's completely different. I'm riding injured. I'm fit to ride, but I'm not fit to ride very fast. I'm on a borrowed bike, which is a little bit older. I'm not so happy with some elements of the bike. Although it's reliable, it's not fantastic. I reevaluate the situation. I want to get out there. I want to take that checkered flag. I'm not going to push ridiculously hard because I'm not going to put any unnecessary risk into a result that I feel I should be doing better than anyway. But I'm certainly going to go out there. I want to be part of the show. I feel like I've really missed out because of my silly crash. It's been fantastic weather, the best TT there's ever been as far as I can see, you know, from being a spectator at it. And I really want to be part of that event. I'm going to go out in the senior and hopefully get a bit close to that 130 mile an hour lap.
Wonderful. Well, just 2 questions to finish off, Sam, that I finish off every podcast with. First, you can use section for that. You've probably already done it. I think we've probably already answered my penultimate question. But let's take it aside from the TT. What's your favourite corner and why?
Favourite corner at the TT?
No, outside, because you explained through Carrowmore to Ramsey.
Yeah.
From the section that you,
the
you
section
went through.
from Carrowmore all the way through,
to Ramsey.
Yeah.
So take the TT out completely.
Right.
What's your favourite corner and why?
My favourite corner of any circuit worldwide.
That isn't here.
Wow. Now
that
that's
you've
a
ridden and
one.
that gives you. I'll buy you a bit of time.
Okay.
That gives you the big grin. It gives you a sense of satisfaction and maybe gives you that fizzy feeling in the pit of your stomach when you've got it right.
I think there's so many sections at Macau that give that. The satisfaction of accurately coming through some of the Macau sections is good. And Macau's got this incredible corner. I think it's called Mandarin, and it's a big, fast, scary corner. You're coming up to it in 6th, and you know, it's a few years since we've been there, hopefully I remember right, you just nick it back into 5th, no brakes, and you just throw it in, and because it's so fast, you're able to slide the bike much more. The faster you go, the easier it actually is to balance the bike, and you can go through there and you can feel the front tyre push and the back swings wide, you catch it on the throttle and pick it up, and you're inches off the wall on the inside to inches off the wall on the outside. And I remember one time I come round, I thought, I've just got that right, and then I come in, as I was coming in, committed to the apex with the thing sliding, I realised my head was going to hit the wall, and I just picked my head up out the way, and the wall buzzed my hump, and it actually burned the leather on the hump because it just clipped it just by a few millimeters. It burnt the hump, power slided through on the exit. Absolutely bloody fantastic, really good, and it was my best qualifying lap I've ever done around there. Put me in a really good spot on the grid.
That's incredible, and there's, like you say, there's only Macau where you can do something like that.
Absolutely, you know, it's a bit like Station Corner. A lot of people know Station Corner at the Northwest 200, and it's the same sort of style of big, fast, scary corner. But the Northwest, you wouldn't want to crash there, but you crash into a field. But of course, at Macau, you'd be straight through into a hotel.
Which is not what you need. I don't want to
end
up in reception.
No, you don't want to end up in reception.
Are you checking in, sir? At Station Corner, took my breath away. We did a lap in the van with James Hillier at the Northwest, and you're going through Station Corner. The rest of the circuit is kind of okay. It's fast, but it's okay.
Yeah.
Station Corner's something different.
Something else, isn't it?
It beggars belief. I mean, let's talk about it. What's it like for you going
Well,
through
for
that?
the guys that don't know it, it's a big, fast, scary corner, and that's what's great about it. We come out the Mill Road roundabout, second gear, and you power slide straight away in second, nice and easy, all the way through. Third, fourth, giving it every rev, watching those lights, getting everything you can out of the bike because you need it for them on the back straight. Third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and you're really motoring down to there, and it's wheeling on its way up to it, and you're coming up to it thinking, come on, take it flat, because it helps the bike, you see. If you just roll a little bit onto it, it helps settle the bike, and you can get a nice run through it. But you go, I'm going to take it flat, and you just pin your hand as hard as you can to full throttle, and you throw it in, and spinning and sliding and bucking, using all the road on the exit, and you think, that was awesome, as you come through it. Just awesome corner, just incredible. Yeah.
And you're right. Whether you need to know or you don't, James Hilly does exactly the same thing.
Does he?
Slight roll and then slingshot through it.
Oh, he does a slight roll. I bet he tells everyone he does a slight roll to play with their head, so they do it too. And actually, if you check his data, he'd be flat. James is a really handy ride. He'll be flat through there.
He enjoyed himself out there. It's been difficult for him. We're going to digress a little bit again. It's been difficult for James to get his head around the speed because there's been no way of building yourself up for these events. You were literally flagged off at the Northwest. There you go, boys. 205 miles an hour through the Northwest. Go out and play. There you go. There's absolutely no way to build yourself up for that. What was it like for you dialing your brain into that?
You're right. It's crazy. We've been riding around a BSB, Alton Park, where you do, 150 mile an hour, but it feels so slow. I was going to say it's so boring. It's not boring, but it's all relative. And the next thing, there's 30 of you on a pack all heading down the back straight of the Northwest 200, thinking, I hope I remember which way this kink goes. At first, the bikes feel so fast. They're just so powerful. You just keep feeding in the power, and in fourth, fifth, sixth, they just keep on going. You think, Jesus, is this thing ever going to stop accelerating? But by the end of the event, the bike feels so slow, and you, come on, give it more, and you're kicking the thing, trying to get more power out of it, and your chin's on the tank already. You push down harder, you tuck in more. The bikes feel so slow. Once your brain's calibrated and you got used to it, it's so disappointing how slow they are. We could have another 100 horsepower at the Northwest.
Which I can't even get my head around the horsepower that you've got, let alone having any more than that. But I find the human side of road racing really interesting, of what you guys go through. And that's part of it, of calibrating the brain to the speed. Round here, the Northwest, I don't know, normal people, who I can't do it, so I write about it and talk about it. But for the guys that can do it, and it's almost likening it to classical music, when going through here, when you're on song, you've done 20 odd laps in practice, you're out for the first race, and you're just flowing. You know what's coming. It's almost, do you feel you can do it almost out of body? You're not thinking too much about what you're doing?
Yeah, and that's what I was saying about this new bike allowed me to just ride. I didn't even feel like I was riding a bike. But after the first night, they said, well, how's the bike? I said, I don't know. I couldn't even tell you how the bike was, because I wasn't even riding it. The bike just knew its way around, and somehow subconsciously my body knew the way to go round, and that is a loud twin. Loud bike.
Gotta love a twin.
It is absolutely natural, and maybe when you're pushing a little bit harder, you get a bit ragged, and you're pushing a bit beyond the flow, and that's when you get those big corner exit slides. Rather than just a little bit, you can really push on, and you can just make up those few tenths here or there. But certainly, if you just knock off the pace to do, say, 125 mile an hour laps, you could do it, with your eyes closed as such. It's such a natural, flowing, smooth, steady feel.
And it's not that long ago that the 125 was the target, as we spoke about 140 as a target before. It's not all that long ago in relative terms that 125 was a lap record.
No, absolutely, it's not at all, is it? When you look at the list of, say, the top 100 or whatever fastest all-time racers, and you're looking down the list and you're, wow, he only did 125. I idolise that guy. I think what he is, but that's no disrespect to them. The circuit and the bikes have moved on, and I think if you brought back some of the guys who keep the names out of it, but if you brought some of them back from 20 years ago, they'd absolutely be at the sharp end. The cream rises to the top, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. A lot of it's down to the machinery. Some of the riders were better than the machinery they had, and it's evolution.
It certainly is, it's evolution of the events, isn't it? And evolution of the bikes. And the litre bikes, I think, stayed stationary for a while. But in the last, say, 5 or 6 years, they've taken such a huge jump on. Obviously, I'm with the BMW because I think that's the best bike. But you look at what Honda have got out there now and you think, wow, that's an incredible bike, a super stock package. The BM, you've got the S or the M, and the Yamaha, of course, is just an incredible package winning everywhere. Somehow, I don't quite understand why, but those litre bikes have moved on a massive amount, and it's really exciting. It's a great time to be able to ride them.
How much have you seen that change in the time that you've done here now?
Oh,
the bikes that you've ridden? I could sit and talk to you all day. We have no time. The only time that we have is taking you away from what work you've got to do in the garage.
It's all right. The clutch plates are soaking now, so I've got time. I've got loads of time.
That's good. You timed it right.
Yeah.
How have the bikes changed in the relatively short time that you've been doing this?
Certainly if we take the TT out of it and we say, I rode the Ducati 1198, and then that was a very difficult bike for me to ride at BSB because I was effectively a novice, and an incredible machine, but very, very difficult to ride. So I went onto the Blade. And I remember one day we got a new lithium battery, lightweight battery. You're just getting these lithium batteries, and it's a 170 horsepower bike with a cable throttle. And now you look at the BMW that I've got. My super stock bike has got a Motec dash, or it did tell us Sapphire to it. But we'll get over that next year again when I get another bike.
Did they resurface the road there as well when you did that?
Exactly. Yeah, I think they did have to resurface the road. It was on fire for a while. That's what happens when you strap a lithium battery to a fuel tank. It will keep reigniting.
It will keep going.
Yeah. The way the bikes have moved on is absolutely incredible. And it's strange that in a way, they're not massively faster because, of course, the tyres have moved on bit by bit. So even though the bikes have taken huge, dramatic steps forward, the tyres themselves haven't. I think a lot of the bikes moving forwards, we've got to thank all these ridiculous EU regulations, because they mean the bikes have had to have more powerful ECUs to get around it. And once you've got a powerful ECU, you can do more stuff with it, and the bike becomes more flexible. And that's what I do for a job, of course, my day job. I do ECU and dyno work at my shop. Plug for the shop there, motorhub.co.uk. So I do the ECU and the dyno side of stuff. We've got full workshop, sales, MOT, service, everything all rolled in.
Online, and where are you based?
Stoke-on-Trent, but we do everything everywhere. We've got a lovely showroom full. You should come down and have a look at the 916s, the motors, and it's Ben Wiley, who, of course, is now an ex-TT racer, as much as you wouldn't like to say, ex-racer. It's him who deals with all the sales side of it. Obviously, he was the Bimotor importer and race factory Bimotors. He's got some great links with all the factories. I do the ECU and the dyno side, so I'm very involved in the new technologies for the ECUs, and I've seen it come up through the work side and through the racing side, and it's really good, to see the levels and the steps we've moved forwards, I think in part thanks to the emissions regulations that have been forced upon us.
Finding different ways to do things.
Different ways to do stuff. Clever ECUs. When you've got to do things like that Volkswagen Dieselgate, whatever it is, you've got to have a powerful ECU to do that. Not that I would ever suggest any of the manufacturers would ever do anything like that, of course. Of course
Absolutely not. Of course they wouldn't.
No, but there's some powerful ECUs out there capable of some clever tricks.
There really are. We've seen it over the years, but they just get faster and faster and more clever. And the things you can do with an open ECU on a motorcycle now just beggars belief.
Unbelievable, isn't it? And when you look at, say, the new BMW, and it's got, 5 ECUs on it, I think, now, a super stock bike. They're so linked in, they're so tied in, and, it's incredible. You try and steal one of those BMWs, you couldn't do, because it's also linked in, so it's also stopped the bike theft issue. They've just moved on so much. They're just incredible packages, and you think, how are they able to make these bikes and sell them for so little money? I know the money's doubled. When I started racing super stock, it was 10, 12 grand for a road bike, and now they're 20 to 30 grand, and the same again to convert. But when you look at the technology in them, you think, yeah, fair enough.
That's where the money goes, isn't it?
Yeah, credit to them to getting them out there. You look at the Honda, it's like a little super bike, isn't it, for the money? Just incredible.
But the R6 and the CBR, the R1, the CBR, they are just slightly more, effectively quite a lot more powerful versions of the 600s.
They are, absolutely.
But size-wise, there isn't a lot of difference. Talking to the boys at BSB on our Yamaha R1s, Brad and Kyle they're just like big R6s.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's incredible.
And I feel the same with my new litre bike now, the BMW. It's just like riding a 600 in terms of the chassis. Yeah, all right, it's a bit lively over the bumps, and having 200 horsepower and a 600 chassis, it's going to be lively, isn't it? Stepping back onto the old BMW that I've borrowed now, it's like a big comfy old sofa. I've got to be careful what I say here. I've already been told off for live radio. So very careful about, comfortable old familiars. But, the older bike already, stepping back into an older generation, you can feel it's not as agile. And I think that's a big step forward as well in the new bikes. Not only have they got more power and fantastic electronics, they've really got the geometry dialed in, and they've got a 600 style chassis but with a long wheelbase. You've got stability and handling. Incredible packages.
And where else to use it than the Isle of Man TT, where we are now?
The best place in the world, the ultimate circuit.
It is, I agree completely. Final question, what's your best hire car story?
Okay, again, now I've probably got to be careful with the hire car story here.
People either sit forward and go, actually, or they suddenly try and think really quickly about which names they have to change. But there's no comeback on our podcast.
I'm trying to be really careful about that situation. All I'm going to say is that while killing an afternoon after we'd been a Cartagena down to a beach, and one of the roads accidentally turned into a bit of a dirt track, and we seemed to have a gravel road. And one of the jumps on the second attempt, we managed to get a cracking distance on that jump. And once you've paid for the full waiver on the insurance, you've got to consider maybe using that full waiver, haven't you? So we took a few risks and got a bit of air off the second jump on an off-road stage on our Peugeot rally car that we had rented. And I'm just trying to be really careful about naming who was there and what was going on, but we nearly ended up very close down the side of the mountain. But we didn't, we cleaned the car up a little bit, we returned it, there was no claims on the insurance, and somebody is going to buy that car, and I feel a little bit sorry, a little bit of guilt, Once that's done its 3 years as a hire car, I feel really sorry for them when they check the underneath of the car.
What was your best time from gate to gate on the Cartagena approach road?
The Cartagena approach road, okay, gate to gate. Oh, I can't tell you, I haven't got the data log in here. It has been resurfaced and it's really good at the moment. That left hand where you can just clip the wheels in and it just drags the car on beautifully, doesn't it? Yeah. You watch Sebastian Loeb and then you're in the hire car and Cartagena, you think, I am Sebastian Loeb.
It's exactly what it is. Seriously, what an absolute pleasure.
Thanks. Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
I thoroughly enjoyed this.
I could talk shit about bikes all day long.
Well, let's do it again later in the season.
Okay, yeah, let's do it later.
I'll either come down to you, or if we see it, are you coming back to BSB for the rest of the season?
I will do what I can at BSB. I always do the first couple of super stock rounds.
Yep.
It's really important for me to do the BSB because I get my arse handed to me just to finish mid-pack, and you've got to push and push and push. And the TT, people say, you're running 90%. No, you're not anymore. 100%, absolutely giving it everything. And to be able to give a better everything, I need to be a better rider, and that's why I go to the BSB and hone my skills there. But unfortunately, it's a hideously expensive event to attend the BSB. It's just how it is. I find it very difficult to get sponsorship for. The TT is easier to get support for because, of course, incredible world-class event. Not the BSB isn't. It's a great event, but it's very difficult to justify £4,000 every weekend, week after week after week, not including crash damage. So really, for me, the BSB sort of ends at this stage, unless I can... Maybe if I go to some of the other road races and I get some good prize money, Southern 100 Armoy, then the prize money goes into the next BSB. Because I love riding my bike and I'm desperate to go to BSB. I just can only afford to do it with the prize money from the last event.
So that's it, you've got to earn your way around the series.
That's it, I've got to earn my way around.
The joys of privateer racing.
Privateer life.
That's what it is. Maybe we'll see you at Alton Park then in September?
Hopefully, because that's
your
my
home
local.
round? Yeah.
Yeah, and Alton Park, I think, is a fantastic circuit. Alton and Thruxton, for me, are the two mega short circuits. And luckily, I've got Alton Park on my doorstep.
It's one of my favourite rounds. I look forward to that every year, especially the September round, because it's that end of the championship where it starts to matter that little bit more. It's into the showdown. Things have changed. The support classes are starting to shake themselves out as for championship. There's 3 rounds left, including Alton Park, and you just kind of go, ooh, you can feel it.
That point as well, the pressure starts to build because the points are even more crucial. So you want to have a good ride to get your points and build up your championship position. But also, if you crash out trying to get those points, that hits you harder. So where's the balance point? Do you ride safely and just try and consolidate your positions, or do you throw everything at it in the hope?
I'm pleased I'm not a racer.
It's all fun. It's all fun.
Is.
Yeah, and like I say, towards the end of the season, that really is an extra aspect of it.
I'd love to do this again sometime later in the season. Ladies and gentlemen, Sam West.
Thank you.